The bright morning sun was pouring through the hospital window when I opened my eyes, but nothing about that day felt warm. My head pounded as if someone had split it in two, my left arm was wrapped in bandages, and the steady beeping of the heart monitor reminded me that I had come dangerously close to never seeing another sunrise. I searched the room for a familiar face, expecting a nurse or maybe one of my co-workers. Instead, standing quietly beside the window with tears glistening in her eyes was the last person I ever imagined seeing again, my ex-girlfriend's mother. She looked older than I remembered, exhausted, as though she had been carrying a burden far heavier than the overnight bag resting beside her chair. The way she looked at me made it obvious she hadn't come out of pity. She had come because she was hiding a secret that had finally become too heavy to carry. Before we continue, if you believe people deserve kindness and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the Kindness Project. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need hope today. My name is Callan Mercer, and until that morning, I believed every painful chapter of my past had already ended. 3 years earlier, my relationship with Maris Vale had fallen apart so suddenly that I never truly understood why. One ordinary afternoon she simply told me we couldn't be together anymore. There were no angry arguments, no betrayal, no dramatic explanation. She walked away with tears in her eyes and never answered another phone call. I spent months blaming myself, wondering what invisible flaw had destroyed the future we had planned together. Eventually, I accepted that some questions would never have answers. I buried myself in work, moved to another neighborhood, and slowly rebuilt a life that looked stable from the outside even though a quiet emptiness remained inside me. The accident happened on an ordinary weekday morning. I was driving to meet a client when another vehicle ignored a red light and slammed into the driver's side of my car. Everything afterward became flashes of shattered glass, screaming tires, spinning sunlight, and darkness. Doctors later explained that several witnesses had called emergency services immediately and that I was lucky to be alive. Luck, however, was not the word I would have chosen after opening my eyes to find the past sitting silently beside my hospital bed. Maris's mother, Althea Vale, finally gathered enough courage to sit beside me. Her hands trembled as though every sentence she wanted to say fought against years of silence. She explained that she had visited every morning since the accident because someone needed to tell me the truth before it was too late. Hearing those words made my heartbeat quicken faster than the monitor could keep up. I thought perhaps Maris had gotten married, moved away forever, or maybe she had passed away. None of those possibilities prepared me for what came next. Althea admitted that the breakup had never been Maris's choice. Years ago, doctors had discovered that Althea was suffering from an aggressive illness requiring expensive treatment. Their family had quietly fallen into financial ruin. Maris believed caring for her mother was more important than chasing her own happiness. At the same time, she learned that my small construction company was already struggling with debt. She feared that if I stayed beside her, I would sacrifice everything to help her family and lose the business I had spent years building. So she chose to disappear from my life instead of allowing me to carry a burden she believed belonged only to her. For years I had convinced myself I wasn't enough. Yet the truth was far more heartbreaking. The woman I loved had walked away because she loved me too much to watch me lose everything. As the morning sunlight stretched across the hospital floor, Althea revealed the secret she had hidden even from her own daughter. During those difficult years, she had secretly written dozens of letters explaining everything she wished she had the courage to tell me. She never mailed a single one because Maris begged her to respect her decision. Those letters remained sealed inside an old wooden box until the night of my accident. Watching me unconscious convinced Althea that life was too fragile for unfinished truths. She placed the worn box beside my bed before quietly leaving the room. Recovery was slower than I expected. Physical therapy tested my patience every day. Walking even a few steps felt like climbing a mountain. Yet every evening I opened another letter. Each page carried pieces of a story I had never been allowed to hear. Althea described Maris working 2 jobs, selling family heirlooms, and spending sleepless nights beside her hospital bed while pretending everything was fine. She wrote about birthdays spent crying quietly in empty kitchens because she still loved me but refused to call. Every letter erased another layer of resentment that had lived inside me for years. One afternoon, after weeks of rehabilitation, I finally found enough strength to visit the small coastal town where Maris had moved. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe she had built a beautiful new life without me. Maybe she would refuse to see me. Maybe I was chasing a memory that belonged in the past. Instead, I found someone who looked familiar yet carried sadness in her eyes that hadn't been there years before. She was volunteering at a neighborhood learning center, helping children who struggled in school. She smiled constantly for them, but behind every smile I recognized the weight she had hidden for so long. Neither of us needed dramatic words. Time had already spoken louder than either of us ever could. We spent hours walking beneath the bright afternoon sky, sharing everything that had remained trapped inside our hearts for years. We spoke about fear, sacrifice, regret, forgiveness, and the countless ordinary days we had both wasted believing the other had stopped caring. Healing didn't happen overnight. Trust had to grow again, slowly and honestly. I continued therapy until I could walk without pain. Maris learned that love doesn't become stronger by carrying every burden alone. Althea completed her treatments and gradually regained her health. The three of us discovered that families are sometimes rebuilt not through perfect choices but through honest ones. Months later, I returned to the hospital not as a patient but as a volunteer. Every Saturday morning I visited people recovering from serious accidents, bringing books, coffee, and simple conversations to strangers who needed hope. I knew firsthand how one unexpected visitor could completely change someone's future. Every smile I offered felt like honoring the second chance I had almost lost forever. If this story has touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in forgiveness, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Kindness Project so together we can continue spreading stories of hope, healing, and second chances. Special request, before this story ends, comment below with the words "Hope always wins" if you believe one honest truth can heal years of heartbreak. Looking back now, I no longer remember the accident as the worst day of my life. I remember it as the morning when sunlight entered a quiet hospital room and brought with it the truth that changed everything. Sometimes life breaks us apart before it gently puts us back together in ways we never imagined. The people we lose are not always gone because they stopped loving us. Sometimes they disappear because they believe sacrifice is another name for love. But real love, no matter how deeply buried, has a remarkable way of finding the light again. And when it finally does, even the deepest wounds begin to heal, proving that kindness, forgiveness, and truth will always be stronger than silence.